Welcome, we just ascended the Blood Mage to the next level. This build started with elemental damage causing bleed through your lightning spears exploding the whole map, and also sending bosses absolutely packing with these Blood Hunt stab in super explosions. This is possible because of the Blood Mage ascendancy saying elemental damage contributes to bleeding magnitude. Now our lightning spear together with a bleed 3 support can bleed out our enemies. Now comes the interesting part. Since elemental damage contributes to bleed magnitude, we're boosting our elemental damage. And there's an interesting unique that profits from this as well, causing us to suddenly do massive poison damage on top of the actual bleed. And this will also allow some very funny Herald of Blood, Herald of Plague chain explosions throughout the map. The item in question would be called the Plague Fingers, and they say all damage from hits contribute to poison magnitude. The most important point here is all damage. From the rings, the flat elemental damage, from the weapon, the elemental damage, everywhere where you get elemental damage, all of this is now poison too. Without the Plague Fingers and the Poison 3 support, our Lightning Spear does 350 poison damage. That's nothing. But now putting the Plague Fingers on with that all damage, we're suddenly doing 7,741 or 11,000 if our Elemental Conflux jumps over in the right way, poison damage. And that can be stacked 4 times. This has us now go through the maps, simply throw our lightning spear, and every hit applies a big chunk of bleed, a big chunk of poison, and every consecutive hit with all the chaining happening from the lightning spear applies the second, the third, and the fourth poison stack that we don't even need against our enemies, but it's still there and hurting them quite tons. All our poison stuff is sitting on weapon set 1, because I only need it for the lightning spear, papam. But we get a second set of damage that we use against bosses, Rake and Blood Hunt, because if you maximum distance Rake in, you build up an amazing amount of bleed that you can then explode with Blood Hunt, while your lightning spear adds just bonus bleed on top. Thing is, my Rake does not need these poison nodes. They're frankly spoken useless. What Rake wants to have though is another 30% increased attack damage against rare or unique enemies. Yes, absolutely, I use it against bosses. 40% more damage when I'm at full life. Why not? 20% increased physical damage. Absolutely. Then down here, 25 melee damage and 2 melee strike range. Yes, all these things is something that Rake really wants. And suddenly we have a Rake that can do a massive bleed and consume our mana potion to do even more bleed, while our Mental Conflux can then jump over to the fire, ice, or lightning damage to boost that even further, and the Blood Hunt can then consume all this bleed, leading to the explosive results in the background of just sending bosses back to the lobby. We're clearing tier 15 maps, we are at the 4th Ascension, pinnacle bosses not a problem as well, and it's just a fun gameplay loop. On maps, you're running around and simply blasting lightning spears into everyone. We sadly have to give our raw amount away because I had to play some other spirit skills. And against bosses, you rake in, disengage, spear, spear, rake in, disengage, spear, spear, and then bam, Blood Hunt, it's over. The different spirit skill that we added was the Herald of Plague. Herald of Plague says spread the most damaging poison on enemies you kill in a 1.7 meter radius. The interesting part here is you can take your Herald of Blood that explodes the blood loss on enemies that they will get from your lightning spear throws. That blood loss explosion can then poison enemies and have even more poison magnitude because they're bleeding. Then we have the Bursting Plague that stacks up to, again, to even more explosive damage. And with Overreach, we increase the whole area of effect of the whole thing we're doing, which has us hit enemies with a lightning spear. They'll explode into the Herald of Blood, into the Herald of Plague, and boost us with the Herald of Thunder as well. Hell, for all I know, we could probably make the Herald of Thunder poison as well, if that has any use, but again, I'm just throwing it in with all the other stuff, might as well just Bursting Plague and poison on it too. And suddenly you're not only lightning spear chain exploding throughout the levels, you're also chain exploding throughout the level with all your heralds. It couldn't be more beautiful. Now I'm here to give you the endgame update. We're made it all the way to level 84, 2,500 life, 1,800 energy shield. Finally get our resistances somewhat good, because before I was running around with 9% cold, and that wasn't good. For the leveling portion for 1 to 65, because that was a bit tricky, but you can actually level with this. Yes, it was 10 hours from Act 1 to all the way level 65 with lightning spears, with those bleeds. Brilliant. There's a video linked in the description below. Let's start with the actual lightning spear, because here it gets tricky. First, we need bleed 3. Bleed 3 gives us a 100% chance to bleed. Then we also need poison 3. And poison 3 gives us more poison magnitude against bleeding enemies. That's already insane. And then there's a new gem called Admixture. 20% more magnitude of bleeding against poison enemies and 20% more magnitude of poison against bleeding enemies. Makes perfect sense. Together with the elemental armament, as that boosts both. Now the tricky question was what we're going to play. Are we going to play Deadly Poison for the 100% more poison magnitude? Deep Cuts 2 for the 100% more bleeding magnitude. The problem with both of them is they reduce your damage by 30%. If I now pull away the Deadly Poison, I'm going to get 1,000 more bleeding. But I'm going to use 3,000 possible poison. Right now it's at 6,000, that is 8,500. The bleed is at 2,900, and I lose 900 here. So I get more out of using the Deadly Poison, and don't forget that poison can get stacked multiple times. So I can not only get 1 poison, no, I can get 2, 3, and if I play the support gem, actually 4 stacks of poison. First spirit skill would be our Herald of Thunder together with the Living Lightning. Herald of Thunder has us kill enemies, give us the buff, do even more damage. With the Herald of Plague on Clarity 2, you definitely need Clarity 2. Then the Herald of Blood together with Poison 3, Bursting Plague, and Overreach. Now let's get to the Bloodhunt Rake combo. For Bloodhunt, you want Pinpoint Critical, Inevitable Critical, and the Momentum. Now we're not really going into crit, but this gives us a 35.84% crit chance, with still a nice bonus. And the Bloodhunt is there to explode the blood loss, so we're not using it every second. We're only using if there's blood loss build up. Therefore, Inevitable Critical is just perfect for what we're doing. And in order to get that crazy blood loss now, you want Concentrated Effect on the Rake, because we only want to hit one enemy. We only use this against bosses. We don't need more range. Then we get the Momentum. We're moving more than 2 meters, 40% more damage. And generally, you want to move as far as possible, because then you just get more magnitude of bleed. Then we get Deep Cuts for the 100% more bleeding magnitude, and the Ambrosia, which is using up parts of our flask, and you want a flask with as many charges as possible to then do more lightning damage, and more lightning damage leads inevitably to more bleed. And since you're going to rake in, you also want to have the Disengage together with the Shocking Leap and the Pinpoint Critical to maybe land a critical strike and put Chalk Ground on the bibbity bottom. That's pretty much the base setup. This is already working plenty well. In order though to get the maximum damage, you need another 200 spirit. That's where it gets a bit tricky because you need 200 more spirit for those 2 skills. In total, I'm sitting at 321 spirit. And those 2 skills are Elemental Conflux and Trinity. What do they both do? First, Elemental Conflux swaps between 3 elements. It gives us 8 seconds long a boost of 67% damage with more quality. 67% is a lot. The intriguing part is all elemental damage is bleed magnitude, is poison magnitude. If I boost now the fire damage of the Lightning Spear, well, I get here fire damage, 1,000. Boom, that gets boosted, 70, like Brian. Then we have some cold damage that gets boosted, and we get lightning damage that gets boosted. The goal would be to have an even good balance between these 3. My spear has 181 lightning, 58 fire. Then we get here another 47 lightning and 38 fire. Preferable, instead of having the physical damage up on this item, I would have another 40 plus cold damage. That this just multiplies up a bit further. So as we then get the 67% cold damage, it goes also massively ahead. The intriguing part is getting an elemental super damage spear is super simple. Getting a physical super damage spear is actually harder and more expensive. But like for 5 Exalted, you can partially buy like a 400 damage spear already. Because why not? Like, no one wants to play the weird elemental damage stuff. They always want maximum physical. And the Trinity builds up Resonance that gives us more elemental damage with a respective elemental damage type that's currently the highest damage dealing. This means if the Conflux is on Lightning, I'll obviously do Lightning. If the Conflux is on Fire, I'll start building Fire Resonance as well for even more elemental damage. And if the Resonance then swaps over to Cold, I build up the Cold Resonance too. You're kind of building up all 3 resonances more or less at the same time. For this, I would need more cold damage to make it more reliable. At the current given point, I'm pretty much building up Fire and Lightning most of the time. Do you notice a drop of damage as it's swapping through? Not really. You do notice a boost of damage though as it swaps over to lightning. You're not really like, I'm on cold, that's bad. You're more like, I'm on lightning, that's super good. Now, how do we get so much spirit though? Currently, I have an amulet with 44 bonus. I don't have anything on my chest as I was trying to get as much energy shield as possible. And then I do have an offhand with 177 spirit. That's a lot. You can go up to 195. I think up to 200 is possible. This scepter I bought from the trade for 5 exalted. And the main reason for it was we needed the discipline skill that it has to offer. With 20% quality, the discipline gives me 278 maximum energy shield bonus. Just like that. This is also rocking Clarity 1, by the way, as we have Clarity 2 and Clarity 1 for massive mana regeneration. Otherwise, your Lightning Spear will absolutely soak you empty. Our life remnants that we get from the Ascension are currently sitting at the Harmonic remnants, and together with the Remnant Potency for more heal. Before we now get into the passives, let's throw an eye out the gear. We get the Plague Fingers for 1 single Exalted, Belt for maximum life, and then we're trying to get Energy Shield as much as possible. My helmet has 129 currently. I could go up to 300, 400, 500 energy shield. I've seen 800 energy shield helmets, so I know it's possible. We're missing a huge chunk of energy shield here on this side. Rings is flat damage. Yes, please give me as much as possible. And the amulet should boost your energy shield further. For the spear, a maximum elemental damage spear does not hurt. I do actually have this base spear lying around with 242 damage, 186% increased physical damage. I could craft this further and hope that there is a good outcome. But in all honesty, going for the lightning is way easier. You get a good base spear with a good physical damage boost, or not even a good physical damage boost. I have seen one with 100 bonus cold damage in Magic. And then on your essences, you're just adding the essence of electricity for 162 lightning damage possible. Boom. Suddenly, we're just sitting at a spear that does 500 damage like that. And if you craft it upwards, everything could happen, right? For the passives, we had to start in an awkward position right here with boosting our stats. You do need quite some dexterity and intelligence to make things work. And then the rest gets all put into strength to actually boost your life. We're going for more skill speed and then just boost our overall physical damage, as that will get our lightning and it will get our rake up. Then as we're heading over here, this is weapon set 1, the toxins, the poison. I will actually increase the magnitude of poison and recover maximum life on killing poison enemies. I always kill poison enemies. That's pretty good. Then you get here the 30% increased damage against rare or unique enemies. This is perfect for the Rake. So that's weapon set 2, where the Rake is set to. And by the way, yes, I use 1 spear and 1 scepter for both weapon sets by just right-clicking up here to lock them to both weapon sets. The weapon swapping happens automatic, just for the people that are still confused about weapon swapping. Then to the next side, all our poison stuff, again, is weapon set 1, as we get another stack of poison possible. We're going to go through the bottom then, instead of the top, because we're going to pick up here more magnitude on the poison, and another stack of poison possible plus poison duration, so it doesn't run out too quick. And before we now rush upwards for the spears, together with our maiming strike increased damage, we're going through the bottom for more bleeding magnitude against enemies with incision, and we have a 20% chance to apply incision. We get some more damage. That was just the last 2 points I had from 83 and 84. Our afflictions apply faster, and that counts for the bleed and the poison with more ailment damage. Ailment is both of them. Then we're going down here for bonus bleed again with a chance to apply incisions, because that is again magnitude against incision enemies, with a lot of spear damage, because all the flat spear damage boosts our lightning spears and our rake at the same time. And as we're then boosting even more ailments, it's for poison and for our friend the bleed. Now for an anoint, I would love to get the note over all the way here, lasting trauma. This would reduce my attack speed, but I would get another 30% magnitude of ailment and also an increased duration of ailments. Problem is, it costs me a suffering, paranoia, envy, and I don't have a suffering yet. I think a suffering is right now 100 exalted or so. I didn't check the prices, but yeah, lasting trauma is what we really want. Another 30% magnitude is huge. Now, you might have noticed how we have no single defensive node, and that's because we are a blood mage, and we got life remnants that heal us. On top, we got grasping wounds that prevents 25% of life loss, and then does it over 4 seconds instead. The remnants, plus the wounds together, and the poison heal, all work quite nice. Adding then the Crimson Power for gain additional maximum life equal to 100% of the item's energy shield on equipped body armor. I have a 600 one. I think I can go up to an 800 one. That brings you in a nice and healthy position. I could go up to 3,000 life and then overcap the life with the life remnants by 1.5. It's nice. And my last 2 points, they will land in Sanguine Tides. This is going to have your health potion overcap and then give you another 46% more damage multiplier. Yep, just like that. For this, you need a maximum charge life flask, and then you just hurt your enemies. You just use your mana. Your lightning spears are plenty expensive, and then hurt the opponents. Could we now increase our defense a bit more? We could pull these 2 points out that I just told you I get with 83 and 84, and we could pull up an easy 30% increased maximum energy shield. I'm sitting at 1,700, boom, 2,000. That's quite nifty. And another 15% down here, that is suddenly 2,228. Considering that my helmet is again 129, and that gives us like only 300 energy shield, right? 129 is 300. So if I had now a 400 energy shield helmet, so triple of what it is right now, that's suddenly 3,000 and beyond energy shield, and we're super tanky. Next step for me would be getting now a new spear to do even more damage, as we kind of deal 450, but I've seen spears up to 650 damage with elemental stuff easily. There is an even bigger potential, and especially the rings could go higher, because my one ring does like 40 and 40, but the other one is like 20 and 20. So it could go up to 40 and 40 as well, and that flat damage multiplies up so hard. What do you say, ladies and gentlemen? Bleed Poison Witch, something you'd like to try? Otherwise, we got a Poison Ranger for you that throws bombs that poison with the same tack, Plague Fingers. If you already have them, why not use them for 2 different builds? Or the Mortar Mercenary, absolutely devastating. Enjoy and take care.